I am Dungeon Thrasher Lenny Blade, and this is the Dungeons and Thrashers show. Yes, I'm back after my four months hiatus or so. So this is the Adventures in Middle-earth, where I take a look at the whole product line of Cubicle 7's Adventures in Middle-earth product line for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So in this episode I will take a look at the Eaves of Mirkwood introductory adventure and the Loremaster screen. It was released as a package together with a couple of pre-generated character sheets and some optional rules as well that we'll take a look at. But we will start with the Loremaster screen itself. So let's go.
Alright, we're back down at the table here, and just off the bat I just want to say that I appreciate 80s exploitation fantasy art, you know, big muscled hunky half-naked guys and chesty women in, you know, chainmail, bikini as much as the next guy. But take a look at this depiction of Lake Town. I mean, this is gorgeous, and this is what the players will see as you play the game. And since the first sanctuary, sort of the home base of the players, is Lake Town, it's very fitting. So you flip it over and you have the Loremaster side, and it has the starting attributes of all the different cultures, and that of course goes into the audience rules. There are also the journey rules, the shadow corruption rules, and how you gain shadow points and so on. There's a rule summary, some page references, and you know, while all this is very, very helpful, the problem is that these are not rules that you use all the time. Especially, you know, you take a look at how much space the starting attribute table, you know, takes up. It's just ridiculous, and you're not going to use it that often. Now, I understand why Cubicle 7 couldn't print regular 5e rules, because if they did, they would have had to print, you know, the OGL license, and that would take up like a whole panel, probably, of the DM or the LM screen. So obviously they wouldn't do that, and I get that. It's just, you know, it's helpful, but it could have been better with a mix, although I understand why they couldn't do it. I just thought I would mention that. But it is cool. The page references are very helpful, and the rules summaries, especially for new lore masters. The pre-generated character sheets that come with this package is unfortunately little more than expanded and sort of tweaked versions of the pre-gens included in the player's guide. Which is a little bit boring, you know. I would have, you know, would have been good to see some completely new characters. But, you know, they've been fleshed out with new backgrounds and all that, and they tie in slightly to the adventure as well, so... or they could be made to. That when I ran this adventure, I did use the pre-generated characters, and they worked very well. The adventure itself, yes, and it is a good starting adventure. I think it's perfect for as an introduction to the world and the game system, and it's designed to play autonomously without having the player's guide. I mean, you don't even need the player's handbook 5th edition. You could just start with this package and just download the basic rules from Wizards of the Coast's website. So that's a plus for sure. Yeah, so it's perfect for new lore masters and new players alike. The adventures is very varied. It contains exploration and the journey rules, combat, role-playing, and the audience rules. There are also a couple of mini-games included, like smoke rings, singing, and riddles. And of course, you know, throughout the whole adventures, there are blurbs of text that, you know, to give you tips on how to run the game in Middle-earth, and, you know, some rules summaries and things like that are, you know, helpful. And there are some cool things. When I ran this, I ran this, and then I went into the Wildlands Adventure campaign. And I don't want to spoil too much, so I'm not going to go into detail the adventure. But you do meet 3 dwarves, and they are very well portrayed. They have their own personalities, and they actually continue to make appearances throughout the Wildlands campaign as well. By my own device, obviously, but no, so they were very likable characters, and it was just a lot of fun. And the good thing about this, I mean, think about how much is included here. I mean, like I said, you got combat, journey, role-playing game, role-playing, you know, and all of that good stuff, riddles, the smoke ring game, all of that is included, and you can actually finish the whole adventure if you have experienced players, probably in one session if you do like a 6-hour session. It took me 3 or 4 sessions, I think, with brand new players who've never played a tabletop role-playing game before. So if you have like an experienced group, you could do it in one session for sure. Like if you do like a 6-hour session. So, and that's enough to get a feel for the game, and then maybe your group can decide whether you want to continue in Middle-earth or not. So yeah, so that's very very cool. One thing that I've seen a lot of complaints about this adventure is that if you want to go to the Wildlands campaign after this, there's a little snag. At the end of this adventure, you get to the forest gate, and then, you know, the idea is that you then, from there, you travel to Lake Town and you heed King Bard's call to arms, you know. But the problem is that the first adventure in the Wildlands campaign takes you right back through Mirkwood again. So if you're running the adventures as written, that means that you go from the forest gate, you know, on the western part, and you go through Mirkwood and you get to Lake Town eventually, and then you get the mission, or sort of, you meet someone that needs an escort. I'm not gonna spoil too much, and that will take you right back through Mirkwood. But I mean, for an experienced Loremaster, this is not a problem, you know. What I did was that I took my players to Lake Town, and then they met up with, not Bard at first, but they met up with this guy called Finn, who was a servant of the new master of Lake Town, and he gave them some smaller, you know, quests. So, like, for example, they were, I think, they had 2 quests. They would follow a contingent of town guards to weed out like an orc camp, and then they also slayed a big wounded warg, I think, and then they finally met that person, and you know, they started the Wildlands campaign proper. So it can be done. And
so while it's not a perfect adventure, especially if you're going into the Wildlands adventures after this, it doesn't take much to adjust to make it work, and I think I'm gonna say I do recommend it. However, keep in mind that Adventures in Middle-earth stuff has gone up in price since they went out of print. So, but there are shops out there still that has like brand new ones at retail. So look around, shop around, and but if you can't find it, I don't think this adventure or the Loremaster screen is worth the inflated price of the second-hand market. It is a cool thing to have, you know, and but it's not. I mean, you would do just as well with a regular, you know, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition Dungeon Master screen. But even though this one is gorgeous, like I said before, but yeah. So yeah, I would say yeah, I still recommend it. You know, it's a good way to start out for sure. So, anyways, the next time I will take a look at the Rovanian region guide. And from this point on, there will be only like books, you know, until the last product, because it was only released as a PDF, the Rohan Region Guide, but I'll get into that later. So anyways, thanks for watching. See you later.